Welcome to Paperweights, the podcast where two self-proclaimed gym rats and shooting enthusiasts delve into the world of literature with a sprinkle of humor. Although their biceps could crush a walnut, don't let that intimidate you. They also have a nerdy side. Mike and Brandon have a voracious appetite for reading, particularly in the fantasy genre, and they want to share their passion with you. So grab your protein shake and your favorite novel and join us for a humorous and insightful journey into the world of books with Paperweights.
Welcome back to another episode of the Paperweights. I'm your host, Brandon.
And Justin.
Yeah, Justin, so you had a little bit of a computer problems again this week.
Yeah, the computer's starting to show its age a little bit. And right when I got Path of Exile 2, so this weekend I wasn't able to play anything, but I was able to read, so.
Yeah, I remembered you said Thursday you bought it, and then you're like, my computer broke. I was like, ah, shit.
Yeah, Friday at work, so I got one day of playing, and I'm like, all right, time for the weekend. Oh no, it doesn't work. All right. Yeah, such is life.
Yeah. So, if anybody's listening, if the audio is a little worse than previous episodes, we apologize. But we wanted to get this out because we know as of now, Wind and Truth has released. I'm hoping to stave off any spoilers for it, but I'm excited to try to get to that as quickly as we can. We do have schedule for Rhythm of War. Let's see here. We're gonna end up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes on Rhythm of War. Um, each episode's gonna cover roughly 150 pages, except for the one on part 4, which is about 220 pages. We find that to be a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
Even though the part 5 of Oathbringer was short as well. It was like 150 pages, but there's so much that happened in it and ended up being our longest episode. But that's what happens when you get a Sander Lanch.
Yeah, I think that will be a one-off, though. I can't imagine. Well, who knows what will happen, but do you have your physical copy of the new book?
Of Wind and Truth?
Yeah.
Yes. It's not in the room though, but I don't want I did look up how many chapters there are. There's like 140 something chapters.
Yes.
Um, and that doesn't, of course, doesn't include the
Yeah,
interludes and the prologue and the epilogue and all that stuff. So,
it's a thick boy, huh?
do what?
It's a thick boy.
Oh yeah. So if y'all are listening, of course, please don't spoil anything for us if you decide to reach out to us or anything. But yeah. So we were supposed to do an episode last week that covered Shadows for Silence of the Forest of Hell. We decided not to, mostly just because of time. I was on a cruise and then did 2 days of Disney World. We got home at 2 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So we decided to do an 8.5 hour day in Animal Kingdom and then drive home at 4 p.m. for a 10-hour drive. Yeah, whole lot of fun. I'm not sure I'd ever do that again. That
Sounds
timing
a little
issue.
rough.
I would probably spend the whole day, go get some sleep, wake up in the morning, and drive home the next day. Uh, but sometimes you don't want to take extra PTO days or anything like that, so you cram what you can. You got one life, so live it up.
Yeah. I'm
But
sure
yeah,
you were very productive at work the next day.
I took the next day off. So I ended up taking a day off anyway, but I sent Jules to school. What was funny was we got off the ship Monday morning, and as we were getting off, the family that were behind us, they had two kids that were under 10 years old, probably 8 and 7 or something like that, but they were already in their school uniforms. They lived locally near the port, and so the parents are like, "Yeah, we're gonna go drop them off at school right when we get off here, and just let the teachers deal with them being tired. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, there you go. Um, but yeah, a whole lot of fun. Disney cruise. Um, I do it again. In fact, we are doing it again. We have one booked, uh, but it won't be for until January of 2026. Um,
Yeah, ways.
yeah, it's so much I like about it, and it's crazy. Um, so we've been to Disney World before, and the cast members have always been nice. Things have been pretty organized whenever we went. Of course, we didn't do peak season. Um, we we went during the second week of December, which isn't crazy because people are still in school. If you go during like Christmas or New Year's, that's absolutely crazy.
And
During the summer, obviously, because most people are off during the summer, is not only is the park packed, but it's hot as hell. Um, so we went second week of December and we went during Halloween. So the parks weren't completely full. Nice experience, but being on the ship, the same crew is there 24 hours a day with you. Um, you got the same person that does your room every day, gets it set up, sets up the sofa bed or the bunk bed whenever y'all leave for dinner. So when y'all come back, it's all set up for the kids to go to sleep. When y'all leave in the morning, they come in, they put it all up so that if y'all ever come back into the room during the day, the bed's not out and you can just chill in your room. Your servers at dinner follow you each night from restaurant to restaurant. So the Disney ships, they have three main dining rooms that uh, the food is part of the cost that you paid when booking. So you don't go and you don't like swipe your card to pay for the food, which is nice. And your server staff follows you uh, each night there's a rotation. So you're not going to have the same restaurant two nights in a row. They're going to follow you to each restaurant each night. And also the family, if you're seated with more people at your table, that family is also seated with you each night that you go. So you get to meet some people, you get to be familiar with the people that are waiting on you and all this stuff. So overall, great experience. Highly recommended if you can afford it and if you have kids and you like cruises, even if you don't have kids. I would do a Disney cruise without kids because there's plenty of stuff to do. Like there was a bourbon tasting I did and an old fashioned tasting class that I did. Absolutely amazing fun. They also have some adult exclusive areas of the ship that you can go where kids aren't allowed to go. So
that
you don't have to
sounds
be
fun.
around kids all the time. So, but
Let's do that.
enough of that. Before we jump in, we got an exciting book to talk about this episode, and we are sponsored by Mudcat Whiskers. You can visit them over on their website, mudcatwhiskers.com. You can use code Paperweights at checkout to save yourself, I think, 15% on beard care products. They have beard wash, beard conditioner, beard balm, beard oils. All four of those I use daily. They also have beard butters. They have shampoo and body bars, candles. I have a few candles around the house that I use. Awesome scents. You can also get the products unscented. So if you're sensitive to any oil, specific scents or oils, um, or if you're a hunter and you don't want that to interfere with your hunting, you can get the unscented products and they work just as well without making you smell great. So, or bad to the animals. But all right. So, Dawnshard, how'd you feel about this book, Justin?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's what I would want from if he's gonna do more of them, these type of side things, which is have the character from the interlude or whatever, in this case, Risen, but then involve it with the main story and have, side characters or main characters involved from the actual books. In this case, Lupin, but you also got to see Navani and other people like that. So it wasn't just like, but I probably had a problem with the other one. It was just like a lift side story that was kind of important to stuff at the end. It was like basically like a chapter was kind of important,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel that consequential. Or this was like a side story with characters we like from the main books in a more prominent role, and this like side character that was it. So I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I enjoyed it way more than I enjoyed Edge Dancer. I enjoyed Edge Dancer, but the thing I liked most about this is it really did connect three different interludes from the previous books. We got the Risen interludes. It connected to the Kaza interlude from the last book where
Yeah,
it was very mysterious, where this soul caster is on a ship and the cook poisoned everybody and they were trying to go to Akina. And so we got those two connected. And then we got a connection to the Axis the Collector chapter as well, because we learned that Amia has like two different types of races. And so we learned, oh, and it also connected back to Edge Dancer with the Sleepless. So we got more of these crab people, which
yeah,
I'm sure you were happy to learn more about. Um,
yeah. Weirdly enough, they're also aliens.
yes, they are
That
not
one called,
actually Amians.
yeah, they're 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 weird,
Yeah,
but
they are. I liked seeing them though pop back up,
yeah,
and then they alluded to a second race on Amia, and we know that uh, Axis the Collector is like a shapeshifter, and he's from Amia, so he's got those blue eyes, blue skin,
yeah.
and changed tattoos on his body. It would be interesting if he actually ended up being a sleepless as well, because
Yeah, man.
in the book we learn what four sleepless or so, three or four of them
Three
have
or four, yeah.
decided not to be a part of the Hordlings. Uh, so, um, and they also, to harken back to Mistborn, I know they're not Khandra, but they remind me a lot of Khandra. So it'd be interesting if they were created by one of the shards. Um,
I mean, they're like caretakers of the universe or some shit. I don't know.
so they're kind of like
So
the Watchers, except they actually affect things instead of
yeah,
just watching. So,
yeah. And I'm sure the Dawnshard itself is gonna do something in the next two books that we read.
yeah, and we'll get to that too.
Don't really know what it does, but it seems cool.
And and this is just one of them. I think it alluded to maybe four. That there
Something
are
like that.
a total of four. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the prologue. So we get the
Yeah.
prologue, which is the point of view of Yalb, um, and it's taking place on some type of boat, and we have Yalb is he's pranking this character Doc, who's an Alethi, who's like learning to sail because they've uh, like I think the queen, either Yasna or Navani. I can't remember which one. I think Yasna though, since she's the queen of Alethi. She's commanded that more Alethi learn how to sail. So Yalb is like, hey, look, why don't you he's pranking them with these like sailor spren. So they're like it's almost like a hazing ritual. So it's like, hey, they'll let these new sailors overhear descriptions of sailor spren, and then they'll go out and they bet that they can't find one, and they do, and then like it just escalates from there. So they feel good about their bet and they're making money, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, and then at the end they do something where they make them lose all the money that they just earned. So um, kind of fun and a fun way to ingrain yourself with the crew.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, you know, Shallan's painting from book two turned out to be correct and Yalb is alive.
Explain that again.
So in book two, when she does some painting drawings and sees that Yalb was like emerging from the sea.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So we don't really know. We haven't really got anything about that in these past two books where she can like see the see from far away or the future or some shit. So that's interesting. I mean, it's kind of cool that he's alive. He doesn't do anything. I wonder if he's gonna come back. Um, but I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, it was fun to connect this with it too. Just
It
as
seems like he's the only one that survived. Yeah.
yeah, there were two others. It mentioned there were two others that survived the sinking, but they've kept them apart just because of superstition. And
That's
this
right.
whole
Yeah.
book talks a lot about superstition, omens, and everything. It's kind of fun, but they didn't want more than one person that survived a shipwreck to be on a future ship, um, just because of superstition that they might like sink another ship.
Yeah. I couldn't get an exact timeline. Do you do you know the like? I was thinking a couple of months or so after the end of the third book. What were you thinking?
This one,
Yeah,
I
I
think
didn't get a
for
time.
this, I think it's I know. So it's been 2 years since Risen had her accident where she was paralyzed, and I
In
think
book
it
one, yeah.
was, let's see.
I think like 4 to 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's like 4 to 6 months after the Battle of Thaylen Field, because they had enough time to, I mean, get the ship together and sail
And
off. So
then people to Anima multiple times and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, Yalb is on the ship, and another guy, Brekev. I didn't write down what his title was, but this guy, I think he's just up in like the eel's nest, which is like the crow's nest. They call it eel's nest, because there's no
sounds good.
birds in Roshar. There's sky eels.
Yeah.
Um, he sees a ship with
Oh,
tattered
there's
sails.
birds and there's chickens.
Yeah, but they're not from
Yeah,
Roshar.
yeah,
They're brought from off-world. Uh, but he sees a ship with tattered sails and no crew, and we find out that that's the first dream, which was from the interlude, the Kaza interlude from Oathbringer. And so there's rumors that Yalb and the two other survivors. Oh, so sorry, unconnected to seeing the ship. There all have been rumors that Yalb and the other two survivors were like uh, sailed on a ghost ship for years. And so it's fun that they find
yeah.
this ghost ship.
It's because uh, Shallan made the ship disappear.
Oh yeah,
That's the
yeah,
ghost ship. She still casted the entire thing away.
yeah. And so at the end of this prologue, Yalb boards the first stream, and of course he finds no crew. We know what happened to the crew, and he's sure that the Queen will sign him to this ship now. Um, so sorry, my background just switched colors from like something blue to green, and it's just like it's very
Mm.
jarring whenever my computer does that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so awesome introduction to kind of connect the finding of that ship that we didn't know. fate of at the end of
Hmm.
the interlude in the last book. Do you have any other more thoughts on this section?
But no, it was a cool little section. I'm just curious if you think like Yalba is going to become a not a like secondary, just like she's going to show up in any other books. You think?
I would think so. Um, I think he's going to take on. I feel like he would take on more of like a sailor role here. Like he should get his own ship, and I feel
Yeah.
I like
I
him as a
mean,
character. So
yeah, I feel like he's gonna come back around considering Sanderson like basically didn't kill him off for a reason.
yeah,
So
it would be weird to have him not killed off to only come back for this prologue.
yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah. All right, so we'll jump into chapter one. Jump to Risen's point of view. We find out it's been 2 years since her accident that's left her paralyzed. Um, we find out that her Larkin Chiri Chiri is sick and nobody knows what's wrong. Uh, his scales, right?
I
Chiri
think it's
Chiri.
a, I think it's a girl.
Okay, okay. So her scales are kind of
Pink.
ashen, um, and she's not doing well. She hasn't really grown too much. Um, we do find out later that she's actually like nearly an adult and is the only Larkin that the Sleepless know of that grew large enough to return to Amia, and she needed to return to Amia.
Yeah, grow
To,
even larger.
to what?
To keep growing,
Yeah.
right? Because I have a feeling she's gonna be like as tall as like big as like a dragon or something. It's gonna be really cool.
And you know, you mentioned that, and it's funny. I got Daenerys feels in this book. Um, so Risen being Daenerys, and then Chiri Chiri being one, most likely Drogon, kind of connection here.
Hopefully, it ends better for Resin than it does for him.
Yeah. So Risen is she's reading correspondence from other crippled women in the world and reviewing new wheelchair designs and trying to pick her next trade route slash deal. So she's trying to connect with other crippled women to see how they I don't even know if that's a PC term to use, but
Whatever.
whatever. Oh, she's talking to them. Just it's new to her, as in 2 years, but she's been struggling with not being able to do what she used to do physically, and then when people do things for her, she starts to feel worse about her condition. So she's trying to see one, how do these people get around, and two, how do they deal with these emotions and interact with people to let them know, hey, look, I still like to do as much as I can on my own, and if I want help, I will ask you for it. I don't want you to just assume because I'm in a wheelchair that I need you to come grab this thing from the shelf and give it to me, or push my wheelchair to the position where I'm going. Let me do these things. So I still have some dignity and pride and sense of autonomy. So,
Yeah,
and so also Talik and the Reshi King have arrived in Urithiru. Yeah, I think this is happening in Urithiru. Or
yeah.
it might be in Thalen at this moment in Thalen City, and then they go to it's in Thalen City because the next chapter they arrive in Urithiru. Uh, so yeah, the Talik and Reshi King meet up in Thalen City, and Talik starts to talk to Risen and says that she needs to take Chiri Chiri to Akina, and that Queen Navani has put out a request for a ship to investigate the island after the abandoned ship showed up from there. So we get a little setup, a little more setup for why Risen is in the book, and gives her a cool storyline to follow through with.
Yeah, we get our goal for the book.
Yeah, I literally I think next the okay, that's the third chapter. Anything on this chapter?
No, it's a good setup for Risen. You know, it sets up her struggles really well, which throughout the course of this novel she deals with and somewhat overcomes. Um, you know, she we'll get to it later, but she gets her Professor X chair and stuff like that. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. I was like really excited when I was reading it that they were going to Irithyr, they were going to meet the queens. It just set up that it was a larger storyline than something like Edge Dancer was.
Yeah. All right. Chapter 2, we continue with Risen's point of view. They arrive in Uruthiro, and Risen decides to use uh, the palanquin instead of her chair. And she's just marveling at the size of the tower and like how it doesn't crush itself. And she's like, man, people lived here. Like they filled this whole thing before. Um, she takes notes of the giant lifts that were powered by Fabrials that are outside. She got some inside information about Navani working on new types of Fabrials. Um,
Yeah.
and but everybody else, their purpose is still kind of a secret. But we learned that it's for potential flying ships.
Yeah, we're getting airships. We're going Final Fantasy over here.
Yeah, and not just because the wind runners are lashing them to the sky, but we're going to get scientific airships, not magical airships.
I mean, they're magical. They're magical airships, but yeah.
There's more science behind that than somebody that just has magical powers, though.
Sure.
They're using magical powers to create the science, as opposed to one person going, touch, okay, you're floating now. Like, what?
Yeah.
So there's laws with the Fabrials and the gemstones.
Sure.
Uh, so yeah. All right. So Risen tells Navani that she has toured the abandoned ship, and Navani there's an exchange of words, and Navani's like, "Hey, look, we've got people that can use the power of regrowth to heal. Why don't I have you go see them so you'll be able to walk again?" She's like, "Ah, we already tried that, and apparently it's been too long since my accident, and it doesn't work." But they hint at, but I really hope they don't do this. They hinted at um, them not being powerful enough to heal it. As in they'll have more steps, maybe at later ideals, they might be able to heal further back in time.
Like, what
Uh,
they should do is just break her back again. That's a new wound, and then you heal that wound, and she's good, right?
yeah, but
Little
also
loophole.
how did maybe it's different if you become a Knight's Radiant and the Stormlight heals you as opposed to regrowth healing you, because it seems like Lopin's arm was missing for a really long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
speaking of Lopin, I might forget later because I didn't write it down in the notes. But I love how in this book he always referred to that one arm that regrew as his Knight's Radiant arm because it's only ever been a Knight's Radiant.
Yeah.
And that the fact that when it grew, there was a moment in time where that arm was only ever a king and nothing else. Um, just Lopin's funny. I don't think he's as annoying as Jar Jar Binks, but He definitely serves that comedic um, role.
Yeah, he's funny. He's good in the amount that he's used.
Yeah,
He could
I
overstay
connect.
it one
I
time.
connect with him, and I'll get to that later on when we get to the Huo um, and Lopin section towards the end of the book. So, um, yeah, she tells Navani that she's tried to be healed and it didn't work. Then there's reports that the Windrunners have reported a storm around Akina. So they flew out to Akina, um, and Leighton, I think, was the one that had his cat in front of the camera. Oh, cat butt. If you're a male cat, there you go. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so they flew out to investigate, but there are creatures that feed off the stormlight that are around Akina. Hmm. We learned
Hmm.
we learned possibly that there's two different kinds, but we didn't get more information on the second kind.
They're like specifically bred by the sleepless to like suck stormers.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're like sleepless
They are
type.
the guardians of the ancient. Is that that's what they were called, right?
No, that's the Larkins.
Oh, the Larkins are the
Maybe-
guardian of the ancients, but the other creatures were bred by the sleepless.
Yeah, it's a suck storm. They're like mini Larkins, but not like Larkins.
Yeah, they have like fat bulbous heads and they're small. They're about the size of a fist. So that
Yeah.
they're almost like pixie Larkins.
Yeah, but the sleepless like made them so they could like suck stormlight, I guess.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, and so Leighton had his stormlight sucked out and he crashed into the water and they had to save him. And they don't want to use windrunners anymore in that capacity because of that, if that happens. So um, then Navani notices the Larkin and is like, I really need to study that thing and how it feeds off of the stormlight, which is interesting because you'd think Yasna would be the one that would want to study it. Um, I mean, Yasna and Navani, they both like to study things, but Navani is more of Fabrials, while Yasna is more like world sprint and magic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she's trying to maybe I'll like give her some insight on Zabriel's how they use stormlight and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I'll
yeah,
say I was a little confused for a second when they met with Navani. Like when we're gonna go see the Queen because the last book made the last part of the book three was like Yasna is the Queen, but obviously Navani is the Queen of Erytheria. But like so it just kind of I was like oh yeah Navani is the Queen.
yeah.
It
So
just kind of threw me off for a second.
yeah, so we didn't actually get the proclamation. Well, I mean, we did. They announced it. They gave the information publicly that they planned like Dalinar to be High King, which would make Navani the High Queen. Um,
Yeah.
but we didn't actually get Dalinar saying, "Hey, I'm the High King of Erytheria," so we didn't get that on screen. But we get confirmation here that it happened prior to this story.
Yeah, just like if you go straight from book three to this, it's like, yeah, it's not the queen. Oh, we're gonna go meet the queen. Oh, we met Navani. It was just kind of funny.
Yeah,
I was like,
I could see that happening. Which I thought too when they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go meet the queen." I was like, "Oh, Yasna," and then we're like, "Wait, oh, Navani." All right. And I think I actually wrote Yasna down at first when they said they were meeting the queen. I was like, "Oh, Queen Yasna," and then I was like, "Oh wait, no, let me go change that." So yeah, Navani, she wants to send two windrunners and a scribe um, to go to the to investigate the island. Oh wait, but she wants to send a scribe, and Risen asked for more, so for more people to go, and Navani offered a couple of Knights Radiance, and um, then also Risen asked for Queen Fen to give the crew a personal request to go on this mission because Risen felt like the crew wasn't really beholden to her. Like trusting of her yet, and we find out why in later chapters. Um,
And like Akina is considered cursed, so superstitious sailors, but they're doing it for
well,
national pride and stuff. They can sum up their courage.
yeah. And then at the end, Risen asked Navani about developing flying ships and is interested in designing a flying chair. So Navani just kind of confirmed that, yeah, I'm developing flying ships, but I might have something that could work for your chair if you wanted. Chapter 3.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I said, just more stuff of seeing characters from the main book that we care about. We're gonna get more with Lopen. Just makes it tied more into the actual story and makes it so like this seems like Risen could show up in the main book, just kind of like lifted after her novella, and it would like make sense. So just more good stuff.
Yeah.
And a cool, cool foreshadowing of threats, and we get kind of more things that like more and more windrunners are actually appearing. It seems like there's a shit ton of them now. So
Yeah,
it's good.
nice like expansion of the world. All right,
Also,
chapter.
it doesn't seem like the war is super active right now, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, one of the characters opines about that. I think Lopin does in the next chapter.
Yeah,
Uh,
seems to be like a lull right now in the fighting.
yeah. So yeah, we'll move on to chapter 3, Lopin, uh, point of view. And he's flying through the halls of Irithyr above everybody that's walking because he's like, haha, I could fly, and why would I want to clutter up the walkways? So he flies over to the Reshi ambassadors and infuses Talik and with Stormlight lashing him into the sky, takes him on a flight. He explains that Navani and Dalinar invited the Reshi king so that they could bring the Reshi Isles. He's very honest here. He's like, yeah, they invited you here because they want to bring the Reshi Isles into the coalition before Odium gets it. So they basically want to claim your land as part of our coalition so that the opposition doesn't get there. And he's like, "Oh, I like your honesty in everything." And then uh Lopin continues to appeal to on the grounds of like being a minority. He's like, "Hey, I'm from Herdes and we're a minority, but hey, look, if all the minorities get together as one, then they are the majority because there's more of the minorities than there are of the Alethi people." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Let's all work together this." Um,
And he was in the early where Risen loses or gets paralyzed, right?
Talik, yes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
thought.
he was the one that talked to her first and like pretended to be the king.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just
And
didn't go back and read it.
he's friends with Vistem. And
Yes.
they were playing that whole like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it hard for her and make her not be successful at her first trade deal.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Talik he agrees to persuade the king to listen to Dalinar's offer. Uh, let's see. And then we find out that the Reshi king has a spren, and he describes the spren, and Lopin recognizes it as one of the sprens of belonging to the Dustbringer order. So we've got another Dustbringer that might not be evil.
Yeah.
Seems to be less, has potential to be not evil. Um, and Lopin tells him, "Is like you mustn't talk to any of the other like explain this to any of the other people, or talk to any of the other dust bringers until we figure this out, which is fun.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they return to the tower. Kaladin tells Lopin he's sending him on a mission to Akina, so he's already um, promised Lopin and Huo to go on this mission because they needed to send people who could swim in case they lose their stormlight and they fall in the water. And then they include Cord, who's Rock's daughter. They wanted to include Rock, but I forget why they didn't.
He still seems messed up for killing him.
Oh yeah, from killing Amram.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I got a bigger sense in here from Cord, especially when she was talking about how Rock was the only one to pull back to draw the bow in the Horneater Peaks. It's almost like Rock was the king of the Horneaters um, prior to leaving. Um, but definitely, I don't think he has any siblings that are older than him alive now. So, like you've mentioned before in the last book, that he just kind of skipped over the fact that he's probably the king of the Horn Eaters now. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's all of them or their their tribe or whatever, but yeah.
um,
I will say I
yeah,
didn't realize that she was as old as she is.
she's just a
Um,
couple of years younger than Lopin.
yeah.
I don't know how old Lopin is, but
I To be honest, I thought he was like 35.
I have no,
He's
I
not
never
35.
I never tried to place an age on Lopin.
Seems like he's like 20 something and she's like 18.
Yeah, that it seems about that. He's trying to impress her. They both have I would put them both over the age of consent, whatever that is. So, um, but yeah, later on, it's funny how she admits that she's like, I know Lopin's trying to impress me, but why? I don't know. But
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I guess Rock's like 40 something now, maybe 50.
I really don't know because some of these, I mean, the youngest Sleepless is over 400 years old. So
Yeah, but I mean, Rock's a human, unless the Hornators are different species.
I feel like they're I mean, they're human-esque. They're like part human at least. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think they are human, obviously. I mean, we have Shallan who has horn eater blood in her, so
yeah. But it's just like just before we found out Rock had like a fucking 17,000 kids or whatever, I would have pegged him at like maybe mid 30s. But that can't happen if he has like an 18-year-old daughter. Um, so he's probably in his like
he,
mid 40s.
he could be 36.
Yeah,
He had
guess
a
so.
kid at 18. Yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe 40s. No younger than 36.
yeah. I thought Logan was in his 30s, but apparently he's like 20,
No.
which I guess makes sense why he's so crazy.
And then the last person is the Ardent Rushu is gonna go on this mission.
Have we seen her before? I don't think we have.
Rushu?
Yeah.
I think so. Um, yeah,
Well,
I really think we've seen Rushu. I can do a quick search and
yeah. Might
um,
have been one of the ones from Interlude. Maybe the ones at the Hornito Peak.
maybe let me see if it's an Oathbringer real quick. Let's see. Rushu. Yeah, Rushu is in Oathbringer. Comes up mentioned 4 times. Words of Radiance. Let's see if she's in there too. Um, Rushu is mentioned 10 times, no, 15 times in Words of Radiance. And let's see if she was mentioned in Way of Kings. I think she is, because I think she's Navani's personal scribe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Um, Rushu is not in Way of Kings, which makes sense because Navani wasn't in really in Way of Kings.
She didn't have a POV, so oh, did she? Might have.
No, I
She
don't.
had, she had a couple of POVs. Basically.
Not in Way of Kings. Um, okay, so Rushu was one of the Kolin scholars. So,
Could have been Mayaldar instead of her.
yeah, so this chapter literally felt like a cutscene in a video game where you get sent on a mission. It's just like, hey, here's everybody. Here's the exposition of what's going on, and here's everybody that's joining in with you, or the Fellowship of the Ring, and
Yeah.
my axe.
And my sprint.
Yeah, lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Hmm.
All right, so we'll move on to chapter 4. Point of view is Risen. This kind of begins the back and forth POVs between Risen and Lopin. Um, we're aboard the Wander sail now, and Risen is reviewing the differences between the Thalen naval regulations and traditions. And she's doing that because she got in trouble with Captain Durlwan. Um, Probably just murdering these names here, but when you don't put vowels in between consonants, you get what you get when somebody reads it out loud. Uh,
Yeah.
she got in trouble with the captain for asking to steer the ship because even though she owns the ship. Uh, she's not the captain, and the captain is responsible for steering along with the helmsman. And so she asked if she could because she had seen Vistem uh, steer the ship before, but then found out that it is uh, an honor to be asked to, that the captain will ask you to steer the ship, and it's an honor. Cat
Yeah.
butt, cat butt. Um, Nix, you need to be more modest and demure. She's like, "Oh, camera, let me walk by."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so she violated kind of she did a faux pas.
yeah,
Which,
even though it's not like regulation, um, it's just a tradition. So then the captain tries to convince Risen that she's not needed on the mission as she negotiates trade, and there's not really, they don't see there needing any trade is going to happen on this sailing. So she insists on learning to, Arisen insists on learning to work with the crew because of their connection to Vistem. And the crew, so she's like, okay, the crew knew Vistem, so I need to work with them. I need to learn how to work with them. And then the Windrunners board and the crew kind of cheers because it's like, oh, yay, it's lucky to have Knights Radiant come on board. Um, so, but then we get into the bad omens. The first bad omen we come across is that the crew's pet, it's just a sky eel, was found dead. Um, and this comes from older Thalen beliefs. Um, but they believe that Windrunners on board are make a counter omen, so it balances out. So we're gonna keep sailing. Yay! The mission's
yeah.
um, Risen realizes the captain and the crew. She comes resent her because they knew Vistem was leaving the boat, and they all figured. So the crew and the captain figured that Vistem was going to give the boat to the captain. And
Yeah.
when Risen was given the boat, they just lots of resentment and kind of anger, hatred towards Risen. Like, who is this chick? Like, we've worked this ship for so long, and then this person comes in and just gets it. So,
Yeah. Nepotism, all
yeah. So then, and I don't think we meet Nickley, which is her Risen's porter. And I think this is the first time in the series that we've met Nickley.
Probably.
And so she's talking with him about how the crew feels about her. And then she encourages him to ask about Sailor Sprin and play along with the prank to gain more trust. And that she would raise his wages to cover anything that he lost during it. Um, and
And he has these strange tattoos. Ooh, look at those.
yeah. Then we find out that only three of the crew members accepted the mission, and one was the cook, which I was confused about because it seemed like there were way more crew members on this ship during the sailing. Do you
Yeah,
remember anything about that?
not really.
So that was the end of chapter 4. Where's my book? Let's see here. Chapter 4. That's
Well,
fine.
they don't have a cook. That's why Cord is the cook.
Let's see. Nickley retreated, seeming thoughtful, as Clessid finally returned to the quarterdeck. The captain joined him as he reported to Risen. Only 3 crew members took the offer, Reps, and I think
Uh,
we can sail without them.
yeah, yeah, that's right. She said like, "Hey, this is a dangerous mission. If you want to go, you can't go. No repercussions." So three left
Oh yeah, okay. Three left.
because she was like, "This could be a suicide mission type, or this, we're going to the crazy island."
Okay, I wrote it wrong. I read it wrong. They accepted the offer to not take the mission.
Yeah,
Okay. That
and
makes
that's where
sense.
the opening for the cook where the horny
Ward.
lady. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that chapter. And some of my thoughts on this chapter is I mentioned that I mentioned this before, that the passion seemed close to odium. Um, and there's a quote in this section. It said, "The Voidbringers, whose ways and worship seemed uncomfortably close to the passions and Thalen pageantry, hadn't done the old religions any favors." Um, so it's interesting to see them connect again. And then given the whole thing about humans came to Roshar and were the original Voidbringers and destroyers, um, is interesting because it seems like Odium was the original god that the humans worshipped,
I'm spinning.
and so it would make sense that passions were still an older religion that showed through.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like the ancient Thalens were, you know, for the people that like fought against the Night Radiants because they said that they sometimes fought humans, and then maybe, eventually they kind of came around, but they kept their religion and kind of warped it to Vorinism, and so that's why it has the odium kind of undertones.
Yeah, so almost like Crusades came in and took over and adapted. Like Christianity takes a whole lot of like pagan rituals and
Yeah,
associates them with the Christian holidays because it was almost like they're like, okay, well, pe pagans are used to celebrating these things, but we want to convert the pagans, but we don't want to. ostracize them and pull them away. So let's connect our and I don't know if that's actually what the Christians did, but I'm just like
Yeah, they did it for, I think it's Christmas and maybe Easter.
equinoxes.
Yeah,
Yeah, attach them with equinoxes. So autumnal and spring equinoxes.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's very smart and it works. So, uh,
Yeah. And then Halloween and All Hallows, All Saints Day,
yeah,
because All Saints Day is November 1st. Halloween is October 31st. So,
yeah.
all right. Did you have anything on that chapter?
No. I would say at first I didn't think the porter was going to be that big of a character. So it was kind of fun seeing how he kind of slowly becomes more and more of a thing, and then you're like, oh, okay, all right, he's a crab man.
Yeah, he is a crab man. Um, all right. Next chapter, continue with Risen on the Wander Sail. Um, she meets Lopen, and he's aloof, as he is wont to be, talking about how he learned to crawl with one arm. Um, and this kind of teasing, it's funny. We realize later on that Huo and other Herdasians, they dislike Lopen for this kind of teasing because he does it so much. Um, but that's the reason why Huo gets to the third ideal. Um, and it was funny when that happened. I was like, so Huo hates Lopen? But yeah, that's not here yet. So that's later on.
I don't know. It's more like I will save those who annoy me.
Yeah.
It seems like the third oath can be tinkered with a little bit.
Yeah. Um, all right, next, Risen she spends most of her time sitting on the deck. She's kind of strapped into a chair so she doesn't slosh around and fall out as the ship moves with the waves. But she's up there because she wants to be seen by the crew, and then she wants to uh, see things as she does her work, Wha- whatever it is she's working on. I think
Yeah,
she's reading a lot of correspondence and reading up on uh, wheelchair uh, disabilities and things like that.
yeah. But she needs the crew to come to trust her, so they need to see her and know her. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's also been 3 weeks um, since they've been sailing, and Rushu has yet to show the new Fabrials to Risen as she had hoped that she would. So she's like getting antsy for her hover chair. Um, then we have Lopen making more puns, um, and he's just overly happy with them, and Risen is annoyed. Um, I didn't write down what those puns were, but it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Chris
no,
probably remembers them.
probably.
So, Chris, when you listen to this, then you need to chat us or text us and say, yes, the puns were this. If he even read it. I don't know if he read this book, but hopefully he did.
I think he said he was going.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
he said he's in part two of book four right now, so he has to slow down.
yeah. We got him addicted.
Yeah.
Um,
He's gonna finish book five and spoil us, so we're gonna have to kill him.
yeah, we'll have to kill him after book 4 if he decides to start book 5 and we're still on book 4. Um, but find a way to resurrect him.
Yeah.
All right, so Risen is delighted that Lopen unexpectedly actually really understands her and her disability, even though he is silly. So it is fun. It was fun to see that connection. Um, because she's like, he's being silly, but he actually seems to understand my issues and my struggles. Um, yeah.
Because he himself was disabled for a long time.
Yes. Then Rushu starts to show the Fabrials, which consist of a pair of hoops that move opposite of each other. So we've got conjoined Fabrials, which the book describes as two halves of a ruby containing two halves of the same spren. So like they cut the spren in half, or they put the spren in a ruby and then cut the ruby in half, and somehow the spren is still alive in both halves.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
they can be made to move in tandem with one another. Um, and that's kind of like how span reeds work. Um, and she points that out and realizes, or we get the extra information that span reeds actually don't work on ships in motion because the span reed on the opposite is not experiencing that same motion. And I was thinking about this and it's like, okay, if you're moving in a car at high speed and you toss a ball up in the air, the ball is moving at the same speed as, like, if you're holding it, it's moving at the same speed as you're moving. If you toss it up in the air, if unless there's a whole bunch of wind coming, um, the ball is going to continue to move forward at that same motion and then fall down. So it's gonna it if you're stationary, the ball, it looks like it's making an arc. But if you're on the ship with the ball, it just looks like the ball is going up and back down. Um, so yeah, on the ship, if they're using a span reed, the span reed on the land is moving around too erratically to actually have readable uh, handwriting.
Yeah.
So it's basically the frame of reference of the ship. Um, then oh, but we find out that there's a limitation to those Fabrial the Fabrial because somebody still has to manually adjust the other thing, and then it also moves up and down, left and right. But Rushu is going to in addition to that, Rushu is going to test the span reeds with aluminum because they learned that the aluminum blocks affects the way that spren inside of the Fabrials work, which is fun. All that kind of science stuff is fun. I really like the science of Fabrials. And then at the end, the captain comes and tells Risen that there is, quote, dark soul casting, and says, "You must come see this." So we're kind of um, left on a cliffhanger there.
Yeah, I will say I probably said it last book, but I do like the Mistborn connections with the aluminum in this.
You like the Mistborn connections with
Yeah,
aluminum?
you burn aluminum and it gets rid of all your metals, and this aluminum light blocks the
The
the,
spren?
the stuff with the spring, so it's just kind of fun little like crossover, I guess.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for Mistborn.
There is a metal that does something. There are many metals that do stuff.
Yeah. Um, oh yeah. Well, apparently this line made me laugh. How do fish breathe? Lopin was asking. Um, but of course they know how fish breathe. Um, all right, chapter 6.
Yeah.
Do you have more?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, like these traveling chapters, are just kind of fun character building. Don't really have too much thoughts on them until the more interesting stuff later in the book. But they're all good. You know, it's gonna get more Huio stuff later on and things like that. And, more Lupin, more Risen.
Uh,
Just starting to get her Professor X chair, but she doesn't have it yet.
yeah. All right. Oh, we'll move on to the next chapter. The first POV. So we get two POVs in this chapter, Risen and then Nick Lee later on. Um, so start off with Risen and the dark soul casting that we find out is that all the barrels of lavish grain have worms in them now. And the crew, of course, thinks it's bad omen and that there's a dark soul caster on board. And then Risen's like, I need to come up with some type of plan to quell this before it gets out of hand because we still need to make our way here. I don't want everybody to turn back. So she goes back to her old journal entries, one particular about sailing uh, near Hexy, where Vistem visited some local tribes and bought a grain full of worms for cheap, and then sold it to um, another tribe because they take the worms, and so he gave her an idea to do something, um, which they went to Hexy and sold the worm-filled grain, and they got some nice jerky in exchange.
What's
And
up?
huzzah! Um, which then her trade reverses the omen in the eyes of the uh, passions. And so the crew are like, yay, no more bad omens. We shall continue. We have good omens that are fighting the bad omens, and we're level. We're in harmony now. Let's continue.
Yeah.
And then Nick Lee returns to her, and he's gained the trust of the crew now. And he says he left his homeland. He starts to talk. And this is really fun. This is when I knew that it was him that was betraying. Like well, this was the thing that clued me into it a couple chapters later. When they're trying to figure out who on board was not trustworthy. But Nick Lee, Risen asked Nick Lee why he left his homeland. He said he left it because he was betrayed by somebody he trusted. And Risen mentions that Vistem said to always read contracts from friends twice because it hurts the most when a friend betrays you. Um, and then Nick Lee also mentions he thinks that the Radiance, Ardent, and the Cook are all hiding something from Risen and the crew. So he's trying to misdirect, uh, and give her a direction to investigate for who's trying to sabotage the mission. And then we cut over to Nick Lee's point of view and find out that he is a sleepless and has a meeting with the other 19 that still follow the first. And we find out that 4 don't follow the first. The first is the oldest one, and his name is Yelamizen. And so we get the name of the third one, who's not the oldest but close. They all get a number. Nick
Yeah.
Lee is the 24th, who is the youngest one. We also find out that Arklow from Edge Dancer does not follow the first, so he has gone rogue.
Mm.
Hmm. I wonder why, and wonder if we've met any of the other sleepless. Uh, chittering intensifies. And look, I wrote this down. I actually wrote this down before Nick Lee's point of view. I said Nick Lee seems suspicious. And
Yeah.
then of course we get his point of view. Nick Lee is the one causing the bad omen. We find out that he is the one causing the bad omens on the ship and is trying to keep the ship from going to the quote home of the sleepless, which is the island Akina.
Yep.
And I totally, I forget what it was that um, clued me into this, but I had wrote it first. I said, "Was the assassin in Kaza's chapter of Sleepless?" And I was like, I went back to it, and in that chapter, it says the cook began to hum. Pieces of her broke off. She crumbled to a pile of chittering little crumblings that moved out of her clothing, leaving it in a heap. And I don't know why I didn't connect that when I read that description in Oathbringer.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so obvious. And we had that we had enough descriptions of the sleepless from Edge Dancer to connect it, but I guess we weren't like there was so much going on in that interlude that it was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, can't remember. I cannot remember if I knew that or not. Um,
We definitely didn't talk about it on the podcast.
yeah,
So,
I guess also it's because it was from the point of view of the Soulcaster, and she had already gone crazy. But yeah,
true.
or maybe I just missed it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, the Sleepless are a little weird.
They are
I,
very
I don't know how I feel about them.
well. I'm sure there's more Cosmere Collection connection that we'll find out in some other series if you ever read the other series.
Man,
All right, chapter 7.
sure, man.
Or you have anything to add?
No, I mean it was, definitely made the novel way more interesting when I found out the dude was a crab man. I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this. All right.
And not just him, but the fact that there's 24 crab.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So like, just fun. Um, yeah, that's when the book became way more interesting to me.
oh, I agree. Chapter 7, Lopin. Um, all right, so Lopin thinks that the crew is acting weird. And then Huo returns from a port city with correspondence. So basically, I think and Lopin take turns flying to port cities to send and receive correspondence on their travels. Cord is, I think this is where she starts, or where Risen starts to speak Horneater or Vaden with her. Um, because Cord is having trouble expressing things in Alethi
Yeah,
in kind of in a understandable manner. So I think Risen and Vaden connect by speaking. Oh wait, no, Risen isn't even. Sorry, Risen isn't even in this chapter. Um,
that does happen.
but yeah, that does happen, but not in this chapter. Cord is speaking. She's realizing that she likes the thrills and adventure. She's like, "Oh yeah, this is fun. I want more." She also mentions that Rock is planning on going home to face judgment for killing when his birth order was not to be a soldier, but he's putting that off. Let's see. We I don't know where we found some more information about the world, like thick aluminum can block shard blades. So it affects Spren in some manner. Cord mentions that they trade aluminum in the peaks, and it's funny. I wrote, "Does it come through the perpendicularity there?" And then when I turned the page, I read, and like the next sentence was like, "Oh yeah, okay, they bring it through through Shadesmar."
Yeah, I wonder if they get it from Mistborn Land.
Probably their metals are so abundant there, obviously.
Yeah,
So that's probably where they get it from. We find out that Huio, Lopin, and Punio all send most of their radiant stipend back home to their poorer cousins. who may or may not actually be related to them, which we find out from Lopin in his speaking. He's like, "Hey, you're my cousin." He's like, "Yeah, we're not even related. Now you're catching on. I call everybody cousin." Um, right. Lopin enters Rushi's cabin looking for Huio and discovers that he has taken apart his span reed and is experimenting with the aluminum. The sprint inside actually seem to be afraid of the aluminum, so they're pushing against the opposite side of the crystal, trying to get away from the aluminum. Um, and this is where Lopin expresses his feelings that the end of the world is drawn out and slow. Like he expected it to be ending much quicker, which is uh links up with the feelings you spoke at the beginning of the podcast. It's like, hey, there's a lull in the world now. Like it's not crashing down as quickly as we expected to. And honestly, I mean, as powerful as Odium seemed, it seemed like it was just gonna like everything was just first with the Everstorm and then with the end of Oathbringer, where he just used the thrill to turn the entire Alethi army against Thaylen City. Uh,
Yeah,
things seem very
he
grim.
did lose the thrill, so there's that.
Yeah, one of his
Yeah,
big generals down, right? His big stick took a big stick away.
yeah, and I guess you would need time to train up the Parshendi to actually be an army. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's a big key there too.
because I don't know how many feuds there actually are. Probably a couple of like thousands of them, but still, it's hard to like hold ground with just them.
Yeah.
Eh, cool.
And then towards the end, we have Hugo reassembled the span reed, but it's not working properly. And he says pay, uh, he'll pay for the damages when he brings it back. And he's like, she's got so many others, but I'll pay for this span reed. But essentially, like it moves one direction, but not the other. Like, so as you move like left or right, the other one moves left or right. But if you move it up and down, it doesn't move at all. It just kind of stays put, which they're able to use later for the wheelchair.
Yep.
And then at the end of the chapter, Lopin leaves the office or the cabin and notices that all the crew are looking off the starboard bow. And he flies up to see what they're looking at and finds a giant dead thing floating in the water,
Yep.
which leads us right
But we
into
got we got foreshadow of that last chapter with the grad man. He was like, I guess I have to do something bigger.
yeah. And I wrote questions about what is the sighted because I was like, he's gonna kill a sighted, and then we get the in the next chapter, moving right into this, we get a Xanthid. I was like, so do they consider the Xanthid a sighted? But I was like, that doesn't make sense. But later on, we find out that the Horn Eaters are considered the sighted because they can see Spren.
Hmm.
So chapter 8 will move right in because it picks right up off of chapter 7, except we move to Risen's point of view. And she joins the crew up top on deck, looking in the water, and this is where we find out that it's a Xanthid that's floating in the water. Of course, the crew thinks this is another bad omen and wants to turn back. And Risen's like, I can't argue against that because it is terrible, but I have to try to find a way to convince them and turn this into something because we need to continue on. And because one, she needs to help Cherry Cherry. So she wonders. Here's where she starts wondering if there's like a larger slash secret organization that's on board that is doing it, or potentially like a light weaver type situation. And she harkens back to the interlude at the end of Oathbringer with the Parshendi Lightweaver inside the Thalen Gem Reserve. So she convinces the crew that it was a good omen that they found the Samthid that somebody else killed. She's like, hey, it's a bad omen if you kill one, but the soul of the Samthid wanted us to find it to bring it back.
Yep.
So this is obviously a good omen. So we need to tow this thing back. And so whenever the crew casts a hook out to attach it, the rope burns on fire, and then the Xanthid uh, corpse disintegrates into cremlings, or as they call them, because they're sealings. Um, so yeah, a sleepless had disguised itself as a Xanthid.
Yeah, which is crazy. Do you think the Santhid that saved Shallan was a sleepless or a real one?
I think it was a real one.
I think it was a real one too, but it's interesting that it could have been one of them.
Anything now could be a sleepless.
True.
But there's 24 of them, and most of them are trying to guard Akina. So,
Which they don't have to do anymore.
yeah, they don't have to do it anymore. Now they're learning how to be people.
Yes.
Crab.
And they're gonna become radiants. If one of the crabs becomes a radiant, do all the crabs become a radiant?
Well, I don't think that. So I think each horde is a separate entity. They can communicate with each other, but I don't think it's like, yeah, I don't think they're all one being.
Well, in the horde, they're all one being.
Yes, in the horde they are.
Yeah. So like
If one hordeling becomes one, yes, but I then all of the hordelings in that horde are a radiant.
or do you have like 10,000 glory honor sprint for one sleepless radiant?
Can you imagine that 10,000 wind runners in one little being? They split up and
All these crabs just have tiny crab
shard blades.
shard blades.
They've got shard scissors.
Shark claws, yeah.
And they just start
I want I
chopping
want
things up.
all right. So we need to get them be the answer is they can just all be on the water just running across the water trying to kill people.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So next chapter,
Yeah.
chapter 9. All right, we've got Risen point of view. Oh, we do get the name of Plamry, who's Nickley's Thalen assistant, who is not a sleepless. So they go ashore to communicate with Vistem, and he informs her that Navani wanted to see if there was actually an oath gate on Akina. So now she knows why Navani wanted the sent her people on the mission. So that's cool. Then we also get the information that the sleepless seem to be one of two types of Amiens. The other is like Axes the Collector. And Navani agrees there could be, based on the information that Risen has given, there could be an enemy Lightweaver and cautions Risen to be aware of that. She agrees with her. Risen asks Nickley about information on Amia and the Scouring. He tells her of legends of Fabrials and creatures that consume stormlight, and that Amians used to be close with the Radiants, but Amia became uninhabitable after the Radiants left, due to the scouring. The people that attacked it destroyed the devices that transformed the island. So basically, they had something like Fabrials or soul casters that transformed this cold, desolate island into something that was a thriving and inhabitable kingdom. That whenever they got attacked, they destroyed these devices that kept it there, and it's been that way ever since. And then this is where the Cord starts, or Risen starts to speak Vaden with Cord, and she tells her that the Horn Eaters consider sleepless to be gods, and she calls them gods who sleep not. That's how they say it in Horn Eaters. And right as Cord was saying that Luxspren are associated with the sleepless who guard the treasure, she sees several of the Luxspren seemingly beckoning them to the ocean to continue their journey. So they're getting pulled off to go. And I forget why. I forgot why they that Cord and Risen were talking about the sleepless. Was it just they were talking about Amia?
I mean, she got it from Navani, so I think they were just talking to.
Oh, never mind. It for some reason I forgot that we discussed that they saw a Xanthid
Yeah, turn
evolve into a Kremling. So yeah, that's why they would be talking about the sleepless. She
Yeah.
asked her, "Is like, have you ever seen any creature like this before?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, we've got this name for it in the Horneater Peaks."
Yeah. I wonder what the sleepers are doing in the Farming Peaks.
What the
That's
sleep are doing in the
yeah.
Horneater Peaks. Yeah. But we know, well, that's where they've come through there before
Yeah, yes, so.
to come to Roshar, and like Wit warned them of it, and it was only like 2 generations ago. Cord's grandmother, like apparently Cord's grandmother met Wit, and he warned her of the sleepless. Um, yeah. So I actually think that Axes the Collector might actually be a sleepless as well. Uh,
Uh, we got we got a chapter from his point of view. He didn't seem like a sleeper. Not to me. I mean, it'd be a little weird to retcon. He could like shapeshift and stuff, but I don't think he didn't seem like he was like a grab man.
this
But it's possible.
could be possible. I just wrote it as a question here. It's like, was he? So, um, let's see. What's
I hope
next?
he comes back.
Do I?
But I hope he comes back.
I hope he comes back too. I liked his stuff. All right, we'll move on to Lopin, Huio, and Rushu. They come and join Risen. Rushu starts to add a Fabrial to Risen's chair without asking Risen, and Risen's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You need to ask first." She's like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, can I do this?" She goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And so the broken span reed allows the horizontal connection of the conjoined gems to be broken, so it can lift things up, uh, but will allow each piece to move horizontally independent of each other. So they're able to lift the floating chair and then have it glide in the air, um, essentially recreating flight.
She now has Professor X's.
Yay! Da, 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 da. Oh wait, no, that's a victory.
So
We haven't killed anybody yet.
she needs to form a school for gifted youngsters. And, she needs to get a Blackbird, which Navani's working on. So um,
We're
she
about to have
has
the X-Men.
yeah, she has a crazy mental power that can unmake gods or something. So she's basically Professor X now.
Yeah, she is Professor X now, and we have Axes the Collector, who's Mystique.
Yeah.
Um,
We
the
have
Sleepless that are the Horde or Legion.
yeah.
Legion, I mean, Legion's not necessarily an X-Men, but he's close connected.
Uh Kaladin is like angel. He can fly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's broody, so maybe he's Archangel.
yeah,
Because they both brood a lot. Shallan is like Jean Grey, kind of. She can like create illusions and stuff.
yeah.
Which is not really what Jean Grey does, but
About Lift, would you think Lift is like Kitty Pride or
they have different powers, but they seem kind of similar in mindset.
Rock has to be the Beast?
Rocket's Beast. Uh,
Yeah.
Dalinar is Cyclops or Magneto. He used to be evil, but now he's good.
Let's see who else. Who's Nightcrawler?
Hmm.
Who else do we have? We have Wolverine.
Maybe Wolverine. I mean, Shallan gets killed like 17 times and doesn't die, so she's kind of Wolverine as well.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Who who had comparing Radiance to X-Men on their bingo board? If you had
Yeah.
it, you won.
Yeah. Not me. I should have, but illusion. Can't play.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not have that either. All right, next we have Nick Lee brings up the fact that Cord is likely hiding something from Risen and is trying to undermine the mission. So he's trying more subterfuge, redirect focus and investigation on who's causing bad
Yeah.
events.
And he's very bad at it.
He is extremely bad at it. Way too obvious. He's like, hey, so and so, I think is telling you lies. It reminds me, it reminds me of the D&D session. It's like, hey, come with me. Why would I go with you? I mean, it's not like I'm going to rape you and you rolled a natural one on it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I'm not going with you.
Mm, well, persuasion or deception checks failed on his part. I mean, he's a crab. He's a crab man. He can't really talk to people. That's why they need Risen.
Yeah.
I mean,
So then Risen starts to doubt everything, but comes up with a plan and doesn't tell us the plan, but tells Nick Lee to bring his proof of Cord's ill will to Risen. She's like, okay, well, you think she is? Bring me proof. Cool. But at that point, that's when she started to figure out that Nick Lee was misleading her. Uh, this chapter was really fun to me. All the details about Amio, the Sleepless, and Fabrials. It was really fun learning more.
yeah,
Chapter 10, we're at the halfway point now. Um, Risen's chapter, point of view. She's enjoying her new freedom in her Professor Xavier floating chair. They've added a swiveling top to it because they were trying to turn it and it was like turning the Fabrial. And it's like, well, that's weird, whoever's holding the Fabrial. So they added a little like bearing swivel from the base where they have touched the gems so that
yeah,
she also uses like a pole to turn herself and then attach herself to the railing on the deck so she can
yeah.
move
They,
around.
they span readed Thomas Jefferson and got his plans for the swivel chair. Yeah,
Thomas Jefferson has a swivel chair?
he invented the swivel chair.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's fucking amazing.
yeah.
The more you know.
More
God,
you know.
now I love Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
I should listen to more history podcasts so I can be cool like you and Dustin.
Well, I got that from Epic Rap Battles of History, so you can also listen to those.
Oh, okay. I'll have to
And if
add
you've ever listened to ERB, they're very good.
that. All right, so Risen now has sprung the trap for Nickley. So she had Kestlid, who's the man at arms, search Cord's room like before Nick Lee had an opportunity to. He didn't find any poison or anything in the room, and Nick Lee instead like brought uh, Blackbane and said, "Hey, Cord is the cook, and she was planning to cook and poison us with all the food." Um, and then also she's like, "Oh no, we didn't find that." Kessler didn't find that, and so that was one strike. Also, the idea that Nick Lee was the only one on the ship that was trying to convince Risen to turn back and not keep going um, was another clue. And then the fact that he completely explained how the pet was killed was the third and final clue that told Risen who was trying to make them turn away.
Yeah.
So she has Lopen fly Nick Lee and his assistant, just in case, even though she doesn't think uh, this person was in on it. Fly them to the big island of Amia and leave them there with food. And then on their way back out of Akina, they're going to stop and pick them back up. I surely hope they remembered to stop and pick up Plamry because, you know, Nick Lee obviously left that island. So
Yeah.
the fate of Plamry is unknown right now. Uh, maybe he's alive, but
I'll be the next novella.
the next
Just
novella is Rock, but
It's just a Hatchet style story of the survival of this poor guy.
an assistant porter stuck on an island with food.
Yeah. It's just like 500 pages. Sanderson's like, this is my masterpiece. A survival story.
If he could write a 500-page novel about a assistant porter or trapped on an island, then good for him.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have I don't know a sphere or something named Wilson.
Yeah.
Wilson!
There's just uh Crabman just left one crab, so he has one crab friend.
Yeah,
It's
like
just him and his little crab friend.
Plammery is now insane. Um, Plammery turns out to be a Knight's Herald or a herald. Yeah. All right. Then, so at the end of this chapter, Risen realizes that Nick Lee would have poisoned the food as a last resort. And so this connection here, I went back and read what I was like, so was Nick Lee the one that poisoned the crew on the other one, or is this just how they handle it usually? But the sleepless on the other ship was a female. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can change their forms, so maybe.
could could be, but they talk like they mention it's like, hey, these appeared to be this gender or
Yeah,
whatever. So
we need a female in the cave or whatever. So probably was her.
yeah. Do. All right, chapter 11.
And I assume they have to be both genders for all their crabs to repopulate themselves after they die.
So are these Kremlings just fornicating inside of these human-like bodies?
I mean, yeah, or like their main body crabs.
We're
Because it was
going
a
way
bit.
too deep into this.
I mean, there's like 10,000 crabs, and some are gigantic that can go toe to toe with Knight's Radiance and shit. Um, so yeah, I mean, his body in this, I assume they could have multiple bodies at the same time.
Potentially. I just figured that Kremlings were just they would regenerate instead of they're not actually Kremlings.
Well, yeah, but there's
That's
like
the
different
form they take.
species. inside all their stuff.
Do what?
Like they have different species within their like horde of guys.
Yeah, well, in here they mentioned somewhere that because this planet has Kremlings all over, their bodies are made up of Kremlings because it makes more sense. Like it's not as alien. Like if they see Kremlings running around, it's not as alien as like, oh, look, there's chickens. There's like thousands of chickens running around together. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, I've never seen one chicken and there's thousands of them.
Mm.
So, um, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, chapter 11. We have returned to Lopin's point of view. This is a chapter where we learn that they trade off who the helmsman is. Um, so like this Vlexum guy is like the helmsman of the day. Um, so Lopin remains on deck. They're approaching Akina in the storm that's swirling around the island. One of the first protections around this island to prevent people from discovering it. Uh, he remains on deck as it approaches the storm. And he and Vlexum start trading stories about who's been in a bigger storm before. And Lopin's like, "Well, I was in one that was on land, and there were two storms that clashed together, and rocks were being thrown against rocks and disintegrating them." And the captain was like, "Hey, can y'all stop measuring?" Which is a funny thing.
Yeah.
Then we have a crew member, Turlum, was swept off the deck by a huge wave and landed in the water. Lopin rescued him. Um, then when he gets back on deck, he sticks like he lashes the captain to the deck, and then kind of goes back and forth. He can't lash everybody because they still need to be mobile to man the sail and the mast and then the wheels and everything. But he's up there and rescues anybody that does get swept off. I think they mentioned one or two other people.
Yeah, something.
I'm sure there were more, but they just mentioned a couple. Then Rua, who's Lopin's spren, points out a shadow underneath the waves and Lopin believes it's possibly one of the creatures that sucked Stormlight, but he can't tell what or how big it is. So he can't tell the depth of the thing, so depth of the water, so he doesn't know actually how big this creature is that's swimming in the water. And then they come out through the storm to a quiet center, and they see the island, um, and it's surrounded by giant spikes, but with one section that's barren and you can enter in. Did that one exist before, or was this what Kaza?
Yeah, that's the interlude. She turned them all to smoke.
Yeah, she turned a couple into smoke, which let a open.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Um,
So we made it to the island.
yeah, made to the island. It was fun. I guess throughout this we kind of learn more about Lupin's spren, which is interesting. Rua. So it's fun getting more
He
different
doesn't
spren.
speak.
Yeah. We don't really get Julio's spren that much.
Is it like
Um,
Fendorana or something?
something like that.
Yeah. We get a little bit of them.
A little bit, but not that much. Um, yeah, just but we get more spren. Interesting seeing a male honor spren. Uh, considering all the other ones we've seen so far have been female.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
we've also always had pairings of uh, opposite
opposites.
genders.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's interesting. I
yeah.
don't really know the connotation of that, but breaking his formula a little bit, if there was one.
Yeah. Maybe he had a change of mind on
Yeah.
inclusions or something like that.
Yeah, maybe at first he wanted it to be kind of like his Dark Materials where the spin would be opposite, and then it's like, yeah, let's just loosen it up a little bit. I have an idea for a character or something.
Yeah.
So
All right, so we'll move on to chapter 12, a Risen chapter. And this one's kind of short. Um, just a little bit of action kind of goes on. They approach the island, and Risen gives orders to Lopen, Huio, and Rushu to do their secret mission, and then for the crew to investigate and collect any artifacts they can. And when they approach the beach, they see that it's littered with gems and empty carapaces of great shells. Kind of odd as well. Uh, then Risen feeds Cheery Cheery a gem, and then she flies off and dives into the water chasing a Lux Sprin, and she's worried. She's actually amazed that Cheery Cheery can swim, but is kind of concerned that Cheery Cheery is now gone. And
yeah,
that's that chapter. You have anything else on that one?
uh, not really. Is it? It's not here that we found the Lux Sprin or what's keeping all like the great shells alive and stuff. It's probably later, right?
No, yeah, it's later in
Yeah.
this book. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's fun. I mean we're at the beach, where we know shit's fixing to go down. So
D-Day. It's kind of like D-Day, right?
oh yeah. I, I thought you said EA for a second. I was like, Electronic Arts. It's in the
Yeah.
game.
Electronic Arts. What's in the game? All right. Lopin's chapter. So Lopin now sees that giant shadow following the boat. They land on the beach, and Huio, and Rushu uh, start to think that this island is where the great shells come to die. It's kind of like their life cycle end place. Urushu commands the sailors to start collecting as many gems and artifacts as they can. Um, Also, side note, this chapter I was very distracted. There were so many distractions going on in my house. My cat was up on the counter chewing on the steaks that I had out on the counter that I was going to cook. My daughter
Yes.
had the TV on really loud and was yelling at the cat, like, "What are you doing?" So I might have missed something, but we'll get through whatever is here.
Yeah.
So yeah, uh, sailors are going to collect the gems and artifacts. Navani, we learned that Navani didn't send a full Windrunner with a blade because she didn't know if there was going to be enemies on the island, and she didn't want to send a key to the Oath Gate if there were enemies on the island. Um, Rushu is drawing the layout of the exoskeletons and the gem hearts, and then has them sent back to Risen. This kind of reminded me of the corpses that were laid out in Song of Ice and Fire, north of the wall. Just like,
Okay.
this is unnatural. Like, let me draw this out and see if there's any meaning to it.
Yeah. Which we find out later is it's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. And they also realized that no high storms come here. So all the gems that are on the beach are done. However, that's not why they are done. They are done because they are fake, which we learn I think in the next chapter or two.
Yeah. And there's no cremo anywhere, so that's also how they didn't know it's not a high storm.
Right. Yeah. So there's no creme on the great shells or on the gemstones, but there is on the buildings, like the city.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Or next chapter?
No, I mean that would kind of run through. Uh, yeah, I guess the span reworks because the ship is docked, so they can kind of not really rocking on the waves. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all kind of starting to accumulate tension and stuff. So yeah, we can move on.
All right, Risen's chapter, chapter 14. Cord and Risen are together. Cord sees all the Lux Spren in the water underneath the boat with the shadows. Um, and she mentions that they usually follow these the great beings as well. Uh, we learn later on that the Larkin have to bond a Mandra to continue to grow, and the Mandra are the Luxprin. Uh,
Yeah, and they're also the things that were driving the boats in Shadesmar, which is interesting.
yeah, they are. And then they come through. They probably come through and leave the boats in Shadesmar so that they can help the great shells and the Larkin grow. So, do you think the Larkin are a type of great shell?
I don't really see like dead Larkins that are really big.
I want to say yes, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
pretty sure at the end of the book when we see them, like yeah, I think they're a type of great show.
I mean, they it's carapace. Um,
Mhm.
and their
And
heads kind
because they
of
also they were like defenders of the Dawnshard or whatever the hell, so they had to be pretty big.
yeah. All right.
So
Um, Cord reveals that she was looking for shard plate, or shard blades, plate, and not simple wealth because she wanted to take it and bring back to the Hornator Peaks to keep it well protected from anybody that would want to invade for the use of the portal to Shadesmar.
you know what's weird about this? Is like, wouldn't it just be easier to become a radiant instead of doing this?
Yeah, but does Cord think she can become a Radiant?
I mean, probably. Her dad's a radiant.
Yeah, but she's not, so
True. I was saying like this kind of strikes me as like old world thinking of like I need to go find a shard plate and stuff. But like we saw Seth Sun Villano, he killed like 1,000 of these guys. Like just having shard plate and blade doesn't really do anything for radiants or uh void void people. So
yeah,
it seems like I mean it just seems like a little bit of short-sighted thinking where you should start trying to do the new technology of bonding the sprint.
true. Yeah, I think that you have a point.
But maybe she'll get a sprint. And she'll already have her plate.
Yeah, she has
I
plate.
wonder if any of them, since there's a time skip, if like Kaladin has plate. Probably not. They probably wouldn't have done the fourth ideal without like not on the page.
Yeah, can't wait to see in book 4 though.
Yeah.
Um, all right, and the last thing in that chapter is Risen realizes that the gems are a distraction from the real wealth on the island. Um,
Yeah, just like how the sleepers were doing all these different omens try to throw you off. They're doing the same thing at the island itself.
yep.
Hmm.
Chapter 15, we start off with Lopin's point of view. He flies up above the island to get the layout of it, and comes back down, and Rushu pulls out a map and he's like, "Hey, that's exactly what I saw." So it confirms that it's the same place, which is fun. Uh, Lopin finds it interesting that the buildings are covered in cream and then creme, uh, but nothing else is. So another kind of clue for us. Be like, oh yeah, something's off. And then we get a letter from Risen warning that everything is too perfect. Rushu inspects a diamond with a jeweler's loop, um, and realizes it's not actually a diamond. She thinks it's quartz. Lopin thought it was funny. She's like, "You carry a jeweler's loop around?" She's like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I?" Um, they Lopin and Rushu find a raised platform uh, in the city, and a room that looks like an oath gate, but is decayed, and then it ends up being a fake room. So Rushu's like, "Hey, look for stairs going down. That all this is fake. The older ancient ruins are probably this was probably built on top of it. So we need to start looking downwards." They do find the real oath gate down some stairs. Rushu has to She pulls out a soul caster, which nobody knows she had, but came in handy. She soul cast the dead end wall into smoke, and they go in. So eventually, Rushu is going to become smoke if she keeps using this soul caster. Uh, and they find the oath gate behind the wall.
Yeah.
And at that moment, Lopin realizes that the others might be in danger now, that they found the real oath gate and they realized everything else was fake. So he flies back and finds that Huio is being eaten by a giant monster. And we skip point of views.
Mhm.
This is the chapter where I realized the sighted are horn eaters. So we cut to Risen's point of view, and she watches in horror um, as Kremlings swarm the ship. And this is another one of those great horror scenes that we've mentioned time and time again that Brandon Sanderson does well. Um, and which is why I think you would actually really enjoy Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell, because there are lots of horror aspects to that one.
Well, we can do it sometime when we need a break. So
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Let's see. So they swarm and then they form into Nickley on the ship. And this is where we find out that Wit from Cord that Wit had warned the Horn Eaters of Sleepless coming through in her grandmother's time. Nickley then says that they're going to have to kill Cord, and that she says something in the Horn Eater language, which Nickley starts to kind of freak out and be distracted by, which allows Cord to grab Risen and jump off the boat into the water to escape from Nickley. We can
yes,
move. You have more on this, or you want to move right into chapter
yeah,
16?
we can we can save it to like kind of the end because this is all just kind of like one big battle and like negotiations or whatever, and then it's like the end of the book. So
Okay. So just go through all the rest of the chapters?
yeah,
Okay.
if you want to.
All right, let's do that. Chapter 16 is Risen's point of view. So the Luxspren are making themselves visible to Risen, and they guide and speed Risen and Cord down to an underwater cavern.
Hmm.
In that cavern, Cord finds shard plate, and she
Yeah,
starts,
Mission accomplished.
"Yay! Level up!" Um, she tries to attach gems to it and then put it on. Um, Risen is enamored by a mural. It depicted a sun being shattered into pieces. It was inlaid with gold, seemed to radiate light and warmth and possibly thoughts. Um,
Yep.
you then like as Risen is looking at it, she's hearing thoughts that are hers but not hers. You were brought here, she thought to herself, by one of the guardians of ancient sins. So
which is cheery
cheery,
cheery.
cheery. Yeah. It beckoned Risen to accept it, and she says, "Yes." Um, at this point, we don't know what happens, but like she realizes something happened with the mural and with her, and she doesn't know. And then we hear the chittering coming from the pool.
Yep.
Uh,
Sleepless next to me. Yeah, gonna be honest, I don't understand this shit at all, but it's fine.
yeah, I don't either. It looks like a mural depicting the shattering of Ad Nauseam. I mean, it mentions that like in here that Dawn shards were used to kill a god as well. Um,
Yeah, this Dawnshard was able to like that's what caused the shattering or something,
yeah. Uh,
right?
I had another quote here. On its walls, they found strange murals, people with hands forward, falling through what appeared to be portals, emerging into light. So this looks like people going in and out of Shadesmar.
mm,
That was like the first mural that they saw before they got to
yeah.
the Dawnshard mural. Chapter 17. Um, we go back to Lopin, and Lopin rescues Huio from the mandibles of the sea monster. This monster looked vaguely like an enormous grub with a wicked beak of a face. It had spindly arms running all the way along its body. Nix! Nix! Fat cat. Fat cat. Um, Lopin tries to convince Rua to become a shard blade. He even says the words, and Rua just like wags a finger at him. And Lopin says it isn't fair because he doesn't hate
Be
anyone.
right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, while he's doing that, I won't pause, but I'll say how fun it was to be on a cruise and then come back and talk about a pirate adventure, treasure hunting adventure on a ship for this episode. So, all right, and he is back.
And back. I need a little bit of food.
Yeah, so
He's,
Lopin,
he's too fat.
yeah, Nyx is fat, but we love her anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Lopin says it's completely unfair because he does not hate anyone. Um, so he thinks. Then we cut back to Risen. Um, Nick Lee appears. Of course, we knew that the chittering intensified means that the sleepless are approaching.
Yep.
Risen invites him to trade with her because she realizes this is my skill. I am a diplomat. I am charismatic, and we have to make a trade. She's offering herself as somebody to keep their secrets because she realizes that what they need is somebody that will keep the secrets. And this is when we find out that Nick Lee is at least 400 years old because he speaks of sailing with Longbrow, who apparently is a legendary sailor slash pirate. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And chapter 18, we get start off with Lopin. We go back 3 or 4 times here. Um, Lopin and Huio are fighting the monster, talking to Kesslin about leading it inland. He's like, "Oh, we got to lead this inland and then get the rest of the sailors back to the ship." And then Kessel's like, "Well, what if they follow us to the ship and they sink the ship? Then we're all stuck." And it's like, "Okay, well, we all have to um, lead it inland then." And Lopin complains again about how useful it would be to have a shard blade. Um, Then flying creatures show up that are about the size of Lopin's fist, and they drain his stormlight, causing him to fall um, to the ground, and his legs break. Womp womp womp.
Yeah.
Skipping over to Risen, Nickley's plan was to have them recover maps. So he wanted them to recover maps and treasure only to and bring back. And then once they were back, discover that the treasure was fake and the writings told tales of pirates luring people to Akana and ambushing them. So it would look like it was just an old pirate's tale. Fake treasure, X marks the spot, not real, but they somehow got out. So it's not worth going back. That was his plan. But of course, Nickley, or not Nickley, they know too much now, so they can't let them go back.
Yes.
So the next plan was that Nickley was going to return with some of the other. They were going to kill everybody. Then the Sleepless were going to disguise themselves as sailors and spread word that the island was too dangerous and only contained fake treasure. So that nobody will get there. At that point, Cord walks into the room wearing partial shard plate. Risen thinks it's hilarious because just these little arms and head and like this big, almost like I thought of Fallout 4 where like you get into the power armor but you don't have the helmet on.
Yeah.
You just have the legs.
Yeah.
So she comes in and Cord's like, I challenge you, Nickley, to a battle. And he's like, okay. And then she's like, haha, I tricked you. My father is this, and according to the treaty of the old gods, you cannot kill them, so you have to forfeit, and I win. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she's like, oh wait, y'all don't follow the treaty of the old gods. Okay, new plan.
Yeah. That was funny.
It was really funny, but we get more information about like how cool Rock is and his backstory there. Um, and that makes the fact that he drew that shard bow and killed Amram that much more awesome.
Hmm.
Um, then Risen convinces Nickley to sit and talk. And they find a way to continue to protect life and not let more worlds be destroyed. Uh, yeah, so they need to talk and find a way to um, can help the sleepless continue to protect life, which they said is their goal, but they're saying they have to kill these people to protect life. And she's like, no, 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 there's another way. Then we go back to Lopin and Huio, and Huio steps between Lopin and and the monster. He is bereft of Stormlight, and then he explodes with Stormlight and summons a shard hammer and destroys this monster. So Huio got the third ideal before Lopin, and apparently Huio is slash hates slash is really annoyed by Lopin, which allows him to achieve the third ideal. And then we go back to was that
No, no, that was just yeah. It is a good little reveal. Again, another Knight Radiant.
yeah. We're gonna get another one too.
Yeah.
All right, back to Risen in the cave, and during the negotiations, I don't know what happened with my speech there. I'm really tired. I'm still trying to recover from the cruise because like
Yeah, you're
most
good.
days it was like 6 or 7 a.m. till like 12 or 1 a.m. And you do that 5 days in a row. Um, it's real tiring, but it was real fun. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh, so during the negotiations, Nickley realizes that the Dawnshard has changed, or the mural itself. It's no longer has power in it. And then he and the other two sleepless break apart. Some start to go investigate the Dawnshard, and the rest engulf Risen and Cord. And then suddenly a roar is let out inside the cave, and we get a cliffhanger for the next chapter. But luckily, we just go ahead and read the next chapter.
Hell yeah.
Hmm?
Said hell yeah.
And so we get the final, hey, Nix, we get the final chapter before the epilogue here is Lopin's and Risen. Yeah, it goes back. I didn't write that. We get a Risen and a Lopin chapter. They write all this down. Oh my God, I can't type. Okay. Uh, so Huio kills the monster. I already mentioned that. But he's
Yep.
out of Stormlight now. And six more monsters rise from the water. So we're like, oh no. Luckily, they don't actually have to deal with those monsters. And we don't even see them not have to deal with it on screen. We
Yep.
skip back to the cave. Churi Churi flies into the room roaring um, and lands on a skull. And so the Nickley and the other sleepers start reforming into a semblance of humans. Risen is actually surprised that Chiri Chiri's roar sounds like it is, like it does. But it seems like there might have been a bigger one that would actually cause that first roar. Uh, Rocks were falling down and everything. Chiri Chiri looks healthier. The Sleepless confirm that Larkin are the ancient guardians and that the Dawnshard is somehow in Risen now. And we get that confirmation again later that Risen is the Dawnshard.
Yep.
Uh, Risen says she would tell the story exactly how it happened, but leave out the mural. Should say that Cord and her swam down here, found the plate and soulcasters. You were going to attack us to protect these treasures, but you were impressed by Chiri Chiri, one of the ancient guardians of this place. Risen suggests that the Sleepless give the soulcasters to them. In return, she will train them to be more human. They'll also give the shard plate to Cord as well. They mentioned that if she accepts the shard plate, then she accepts the role of protecting the Dawn Shard, because for thousands of years that shard plate was used to protect that. Um, Later on, she does mention that she can't agree to fight for it because she hasn't been trained yet, but she'll work on learning how to and, you know, potentially do it later on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just gotta get with Adolin. Be
yeah,
trained.
yeah. Do. All right.
Maybe Dial.
The Sleepless then convene and agree to Rhythm's plan. They also add that she can't tell anybody unless she asks the Sleepless first. So she can't tell anybody of what happened unless she asks one of the Sleepless first and they agree to it. And she can never bond a Sprin and become a Radiant because she would become too powerful at that time. Or I don't really know why, because she seems super fucking powerful, OP with this Dawn Shard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um, But Risen says she doesn't think they have to worry about that because she doesn't think Cheery Cheery would allow her to bond a Sprin anyway. And we learn they confirm that this Dawn Shard is the command of change, and that Risen now is that command, and that's command with a capital C, so it is a power, um, some
Sure, cool.
some type of power. And I think there are four Dawn Shards, so I quoted this right here. The most powerful forms of surge binding transcend traditional mortal understanding, Nickley said. His body began to reform, hordlings crawling back into place. All their greatest applications require intent and a command. Demands on a level no person could ever manage alone. To make such commands, one must have the reasoning, the breadth of understanding of a deity. And so, the Dawn the four primal commands that created all things. He paused, and then eventually they were used to undo Adonasium itself. So, as much information that actually gives us about what the fuck a Dawnshard is, it still doesn't tell us much, and it's still a mystery.
Yeah. I'm just like, sure, all right. Just send her over to Odium and she can unmake them, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a word of power or something.
Something, yeah.
Like I speak it and it happens. Because she uses it later.
Does she? Yeah.
Yeah. There was it was something in the epilogue. But that's all of the chapters, excluding the epilogue. Do you have anything to add there?
Um, I mean, this all this stuff is fun, right? We get some cool fights with giant crabs. Because it's Roshar, we need giant crab fights. We get more stuff on all the sleepless. How they're basically aliens from another world. Um, so they're weird. And to be honest, I don't really understand the Dawnshard stuff. But I guess if it matters, I'll probably explain it more in subsequent books. Um,
Yeah, I think it's going to
I
matter.
don't know why it was in a mural and then like zapped into her brain. It's a little strange. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of I don't think he got any powers from it, but on the actually no, I think they got powers from it in God of War, the 2018 one with the sun, the first one with the sun, where you found all these like little vignettes of the old gods. I think he unlocked powers um when it when it happened. Yeah, I'm trying to sorry, I'm trying to find that spot because in the chapter the lot in the epilogue, I know we haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like it hasn't gotten there yet, but it's starting to get somewhat close to like jumping the shark with me. It's not there yet, but it's just like it's getting so crazy and weird, um, that it might at some point turn me off, but it hasn't done it yet.
What, the Dawn Shard or the
It
alien
don't like
that stuff?
all this weird bullshit that it's starting to introduce. Like the Dawnshars, the crab people, aliens, all these different immortals, and there's like 17,000 different types of immortal people. Um, but it's not there yet. It's just it has a little bit of a danger if it continues going like as crazy as it is to turn me off a little bit. But this was cool. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't really know how if it's gonna. Hopefully, it will do something to the plot of book four. Be kind of weird if it didn't. Uh, Also, it's cool seeing Lopin become a Radiant. I don't know if that happened before the epilogue, right?
No, it happens in the epilogue. We can talk about the epilogue now if you want.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we get the epilogue. We get a Lopin POV and a Risen POV to close things out. So Lopin, we return to the beach. Lopin wonders what happened in the cavern. Is amazed by Risen surviving the test. So he thinks like, oh, there were tales of Sleepless providing tests for people. Um, and so he's like, oh, she passed those tests. How powerful must she have been to do that? Huio admits that Lopin teases too much and sometimes it hurts. That is why he hates Lopin and what made him gain the third ideal. Then Lopin gains the third ideal.
A very loose interpretation of hatred in these things, but that's fine.
Yeah. Lopin gains the third ideal and says, I've got to protect people, even from myself. Got to rededicate to being the best Lopin possible. A better, improved, extra incredible Lopin. Um, so yeah, silly Lopin.
Tricks are for kids.
What was that?
So you just said silly loop, and I was like, tricks are for kids.
Tricks are for kids, yeah. All right. We will skip to Risen's point of view. Uh, so the Soulcaster, so Thalena gets 5 Soulcasters from the cache that they took home. So they would now possess two. Or I'll just read the quote. Thalena would now possess two, along with one that could form metals. Oh, they would possess two that could create food, along with one that could form metals, one that could create smoke, and another focused on wood, matching the one that the city had used for ages to make the best seafaring lumber. So yeah, that's where the Iron Isles got all their lumber from to make 1,000 ships, is from Soulcasters
Yeah,
in the Song of Ice and Fire.
basically. Yeah.
Um, and then the Sleepless Gold. Oh, Sleepless told Durl that Risen wouldn't negotiate unless the crew was. I don't know what the fuck I typed here, but I understand what I was trying to say. So, Risen said that she had the opportunity to just survive herself, like
Yeah.
negotiate the way out for herself and the crew be killed, but she negotiated the protection of the crew, and Derwin was uh, impressed by that. The Sleepless told her that, and so then, or him that he asks her to steer the ship out of the
Yeah,
port.
it's a lady. All the captains are ladies in the state.
I got fucked over by my typing again.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um,
Also, yeah, we learned that like 3 crew members died, but other than that, they all were kind of good.
yeah, three died, but she rescued the rest of them. Um, Apparently, the Sleepless controlled those grub monsters.
Yeah, like everything was sleepless,
They were.
including like the giant, yeah, including the giant great shells, all that stuff.
So did one of the Sleepless die?
Yeah, in the chapter, when the great shell dies, you see like the Nile, or the inn guy, the porter. Um, you see him wince a little bit. He's like, "Ah, your friends are good at fighting." So it's one of his like great shells.
Oh, okay, I missed
I
that.
forgot, I forgot that guy's name, but yeah,
Nick Lee.
Nick Lee. Yeah,
But what I didn't miss
yeah.
was I found it. So it says, a knock came at her door. Come in, she said, taking another sip of the wonderful tea. Captain Derwin entered, then bowed. Outside, Cord continued her vigil of guarding Risen's door, wearing full shard plate. You're really going to let her keep it? Derwin said softly as she came up from her bow. Cord discovered it, Risen said. It's traditional to let the one who first claims a shard keep it. The command pulsed with warmth as she said that. Besides, Cord saved my life. So it seems like her word is bond.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I will say their plan is really dumb because like they're like, "Oh yes, nobody will know that you have it," because It's like she has like this ancient guardian of the Dawnshard with her, and she has this shard plate bearer who's using the ancient shard plate of the protector of the Dawnshard. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty easy for somebody to find out she has a Dawnshard.
Yeah, I don't know how many people know what the Dawn Shard, if the Dawn, like how many
I
people know
would
the
assume
Dawn Shard
people that are
exists.
worried about getting the Dawnshard know about this stuff, which I don't even know if that's odium or if it's like a different being entirely.
Yeah, I have no clue.
But like it just seems like they're like, that's gonna be a needle in a haystack. This little lady just she's just a little traitor. She just goes away. But she also has the legendary Larkin and she has a bodyguard in Shard Place. Like, yeah, that's gonna be and she's like teaching the sleepless how to like do stuff. It's like, yeah, they're gonna kind of figure it out. It's not that hard to
But
figure
nobody
out.
knows that they're sleepless.
I mean, Navani and them are gonna know, right?
I don't know.
Didn't
Maybe.
they say they're gonna talk to Navani and all
Maybe. I don't
that?
recall.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of funny. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, if anything, the Larkin would give it away.
But she's had the Larkin, so
Yeah, but they're gonna look for the Dawn Shard anyway. They're gonna be like, oh, the lady with the Larkin, the ancient protector of the Dawn Shard.
oh, and in the next couple of years, Risen has to return to Akina as well. So
Yeah, to recharge the Larkin. Did they? I forget. Did they open the Oath Gate? I think they did, right?
no, I don't think they did.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
I think they returned on the ship.
It's been like 2 weeks since I read it, and all my notes went kaput with my computer.
I told you to write them.
I'm not gonna. Who has time to write notes?
No, I told you to put them in like a Google Doc. So you
Yeah,
can
but then I
still,
I have you on my phone. I can't have you on my phone and Google Doc stuff.
you only have one, you don't have a tablet or anything, huh?
Nah, I don't know that kind of money.
Yeah.
If I had a tablet, yeah, I could just pull it up. But
Yeah,
I'm just winging it for now.
it doesn't say. I mean, obviously, let's see.
I mean, it wasn't their mission, so I could see them not doing it, but I can't
If
remember.
they would have opened it, if they opened it, they would have taken it, but they sailed off.
Well, yeah, I mean, she has to stick with her ship, but yeah,
So
but they got to open it for the Irithiri people. I don't know, but yeah, it's good stuff. Um, I'll say it when I first read this book, I was annoyed about it because I just wanted to read book four, but it was much better than Edge Dancer in my opinion. Um, yeah, somewhat gives a reason for Risen to exist in all these interludes. I assume she's going to be now part of the main books now, like Lift was. At least I would hope so.
one would hope.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I'm just really interested in reading book four. Like I said, it will be totally new for me, unlike you. But yes, I
I
can.
don't remember a whole lot. I remember a big event.
Hmm,
I remember two big events, but other details I don't.
yeah,
So,
but yeah, it's gonna be fun.
yeah, it will be fun. So, with that, thank y'all for sticking around for this little novella. It was fun. Um, let's see. Let's see. Next week, we will be covering the prologue through chapter 10 of Rhythm of War. So these sections will be a lot smaller, like I said at the beginning, than previous times. I think one section we did before was like 300 something pages.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
absolutely too much. So we're going to break these up. Um, fighting against fighting against my urge to get to book five as quickly as possible. Uh, that was one of the reasons why some of those other sections were so large, but it 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 was a whole lot.
Yeah,
So
and
this
it'll
is
give us
supposed
an
to be fun.
opportunity to, yeah, it'll also give us an opportunity to like dive a little deeper into some of the chapters, even if like not a lot happens, we can talk about it a little bit more. Because like when we're doing so many chapters, like this thing happens, all right, what's it next? We kind of had to rush through them, so we can kind of go a little bit
Yeah.
quicker. Maybe have more theory time and stuff as we get to more stuff we don't remember or I don't know at all. It's really hard to theorize when you know the theory, you know the answers. Um,
Yeah. 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 So yeah, like I said, it's supposed to be fun, and this should get back to uh, being fun, and we will get to book five when we finish book four, and
yeah.
that will be fun as well. So if you made it this far, do all the things like, follow, subscribe, share, leave a review, rating if you want. Visit our sponsor, Mudcat Whiskers, at their website, www.mudcatwhiskers.com. And yeah, use code Paperweights at checkout to save yourself some money on some awesome beard products. Locally made in Louisiana. Support all small businesses where you can. And we shall see you next week.
Ah.